Thanks, Loretta, for sharing your garden with us. Right now we're going to be talking about soft structure for the garden. And we have Scott Thurmon, one of our favorite guests on Central Texas Gardener. Welcome back. It's always great to see you, Scott.
Thank you, Tom.
You're always real busy designing gardens, and one of the things I really love about the places that you work on are the combinations of plants. And you've brought an amazing assortment of things to share with us today, some really cool things. This is an interesting concept, soft structure.
Yeah, that threw me for a bit of a curve. But it was kind of fun to think about it and sort of come up with different ways to project that.
Yeah. Well, you think about flowing plants, things that have kind of these graceful forms or movement in them, and they certainly soften up the structure in the plants. And we're going to just, I think, dive in and start talking about all these different cool species, if you don't mind. And the first one is a new plant to me, and this is a relative of our native Satol, which I think of as being a vicious plant. This one looks pretty benign.
Yeah, that one's pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Dasylirion longissimum, or Mexican grass palm. Real nice, needly but soft structure.
Right. Not like sharp needles.
No sharp needles. Much friendlier to work with than the native Satol.
Yeah, one of the things in my old garden, I had a grouping of Satols, which looked terrific in a group, but talk about trouble weeding.
It's easy to get your hand in there, but when you try to get them back out,
exactly.
It's not so much fun.
Well, tell me about this plant real briefly.
It's slow to moderate growing, can eventually form a trunk up to 10 feet tall. But that's probably for your grandkids to enjoy.
Okay, so that far down the road, okay.
But potentially up to about 6 feet wide.
Okay, well, very cool. Really like the look of this one. We have, of course, it is a xeric plant. You can tell just by looking at it. Immediately adjacent to it, we have a form of Buddleia called the woolly Buddleia, and this is one where very evidently soft-looking leaves, so I get that part of the softness here.
Soft-looking leaves, nice gray form, about 3 feet by 3 feet, orange ball flowers as opposed to the long panicles of most Buddleias. Blooms scattered throughout in the summer.
Yeah, very cool looking plant. I love this. I love the color of the blooms. Silver and orange is a great combo, I think.
It is a great combo.
And that's one that I think would be a star for a lot of people who have hot, dry spaces, right?
And I hear the hummingbirds like it a lot as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Anyway, well, it makes sense. Most of the Buddleias are very attracted to butterflies, etc. Well, we have a lot of plants over here. Again, large, beautiful group of things. We're going to start off by talking about the Jerusalem sage, and I love the big floppy leaves on this one.
Yeah, that's a large leaf Jerusalem sage, and again, that's another definition of soft because the leaves are soft and fuzzy.
Right.
That one gets about 4 feet wide and about 4 feet tall.
And again, a good plant for a lot of different situations. One of the things that surprises me about this is it seems to do pretty well in the shade.
Yeah, the larger leaf one will do quite well in the shade.
Yeah. Not all day.
Not all day. Dappled sun. Keep it a little more on the dry side if it's in more shade.
Right. But big, bold leaves, nice soft texture to that, and beautiful yellow flowers. So a great choice. I always love the cannas, and the one that you brought in is one that I don't think I've ever seen before, Scott. This is Canna australis, and love the color on this. This is, you often see these kind of dark burgundy cannas that are striped, but nothing this solid.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. It gets about 5 feet tall, red-orange flowers in the summertime. A little bit of extra water when we get into August, when we're really dry, but it's pretty tough.
Is it as aggressive as some of the other cannas?
You'll probably want to share some with some friends occasionally.
At some point. Okay. In other words, be warned. Actually, cannas aren't that bad. They're easy to work with.
They're
very easy to dig up. Very, very easy. So, Canna australis, no common name on that one that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of either.
Okay. Next to that, we have a big floppy, soft-looking pile of Miscanthus. And this is a cultivar that's been around for a few years.
Yeah, that's Miscanthus Cabaret. That's a pretty large Miscanthus. It can easily get, 5 feet tall, maybe even 6, and 4 feet wide.
And this is one, again, sun, semi-shade, does pretty well in the semi-shade. Love all the ornamental grasses, but this is one, if you like that bold variegation, I think these are probably the best of those.
Yeah, it's one of the strongest variegated.
Yeah, anyway, so good choice for a lot of people out there in a lot of different situations. We have, there are lots of different forms of Rudbeckia out there. One of my favorite all-time garden plants is Rudbeckia goldstrum, which is, a really super performer. Black-eyed Susan, common name for these plants. This is one that I've never seen before. This is cabbagey almost.
Yeah, it's great form. Nice blue-gray leaves. Rudbeckia maxima. The bloom spikes can get up to 5-6 feet tall.
Awesome.
And great
big yellow
big
straps.
yellow flowers. And but I really love those blue-gray leaves, and that was spectacular in bloom and out.
Yeah, well, there you go. And that's not always the case with them. Sometimes they kind of crater after blooming, and not always very attractive. That's a beautiful plant. Grass lily, love the look of this thing, and I'm ashamed, I don't know anything about this plant. It looks terrific. It's the little white flower with obviously the grass-like texture.
Yeah, it's related to the house plant that a lot of people grow, airplane plant or spider plant.
Duh. Yeah.
It's,
okay.
It's a perennial clump forming, usually about 18 inches tall and wide.
Okay. Well,
Anthericum, I believe, is the botanical name on that.
Evergreen in the ground here?
Usually.
Okay. Usually. All right.
Usually.
Well, I know a lot of people just stick the airplane plant in the ground, and it becomes a ground cover.
Yeah.
And so, okay, there you go. Grass lily. Now, the next plant is a Verbascum.
Yeah.
And this is one that I think we've talked about before on the show as well.
That's the little more mannerly garden version of the common mullein that you see growing around here. That's Verbascum Southern Charm.
Okay.
Nice, tall spike of pink flowers. Good kind of cottage garden plant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think of when I think plants like this, is an old-fashioned, period almost, cottage garden. Nice flower spike. And you say, a mannerly mullein-like plant. Okay, well, we'll take your word for the mannerly part of that. Immediately adjacent to that, Scott, we have another form of Miscanthus. This is a really widely hybridized plant family, lots of different forms of this. This is called zebra, and it's pretty evident why.
Yeah, Miscanthus, that one's Goldbar. It's a newer, improved introduction, smaller than the Cabaret, about 3 feet by about 2 feet wide.
Yeah, very cool. And you often see the striated variation where it follows the length of the leaf, but to see it banding like this, it's just very cool. It's very striking. And again, the same thing can be said about this as the other Miscanthus. A relatively tough little plant that is widely adapted and really quite striking in the garden, and provides that soft grass-like texture that a lot of people want. This next plant we're going to talk about, I am in love with this, just seeing it here, and this is a Philadelphus, which I love the Philadelphus, the mock oranges, and the fragrance often is superb on these plants. This one actually has got a little spicy fragrance to it.
Yeah, I was very pleased when I noticed the fragrance on that one. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's not going to be that fragrant, but it's delicious. And it's a dwarf form called Snowflake. It matures at about 3 to 4 feet, by about 3 to 4 feet wide. And
for people not familiar with the Philadelphus or mock oranges, these are plants that probably would prefer to be a little bit east of here.
Yeah.
So in good garden soil, and I'd say protection from afternoon sun, wouldn't you?
Morning sun, afternoon shade.
Yeah. But a great little plant, and just they come in bloom, and it's just like this amazing show when they're in bloom.
Yeah, they're really spectacular.
Yeah, love the Philadelphus. Okay. Love this next plant too, Crinum sangria, and this is a crinum that has a super color in the foliage. A lot of crinums, the foliage is actually a detraction, not here.
Yeah, the foliage is kind of the star here, although the flowers are pretty spectacular too. There's big pink clusters of kind of thin-petaled flowers.
Okay.
In the summertime, but
bloom May, June. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really love the foliage color on that one, and you get a big mass of 3 to 4 foot wide, strappy burgundy leaves.
Okay. Well, Scott, we've plowed through almost all of our time. I'm going to throw my director a curveball. I want to talk about one last plant, just ever briefly, and this is the Grevillea behind me. You got to tell me a little bit about this plant. Absolutely love the look of this.
I'm kind of enamored with those two. They're native of Australia. They're newer in the Austin area. I'm still experimenting with some of them.
Yeah.
On their cold hardiness, that one is Bonfire, and it's about 20 degrees.
Okay, well, gorgeous color, great looking plant. Love the thread-like foliage as well as the bloom. You always blow me away with your plants, Scott. Scott Thurmon, landscape designer, a great plantsman. Always a pleasure to have you on the program. Learn something every time you come on the show, so thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, great. Coming up next is our friend Skip Richter.